ever made somebody cry with your guitar solos? Yeah, me neither. Actually, I don't know if that's true. I've played some pretty bad solos. In all seriousness, we're going to be trying to move our listeners and create meaningful, emotive guitar solos and phrases, and we're going to do that by actually writing a song, and we'll see where this goes. I don't really have anything planned as far as the harmony or the melodies or anything like that. It's just going to unfold naturally before our eyes and ears. We're going to do that today with this baby, the Audient Sono. This is a really simple to use yet very powerful recording interface for a great price, and that is really the reason that I'm showing it to you guys, because I know there's a lot of guitar players out there who are trying to get started with their home recording or maybe step up their game a little bit. This is a great device to do that with, and newsflash, I'm giving away one of these things. There's a link down in the description to enter to win an Audient Sono interface. Yes, this is an international giveaway, so check the link down there for details. I will be revealing the winner on my Instagram, and I wish you the best of luck to try and win. But even if you don't win, maybe you should check this out on your own if you're on the market for a recording interface. We're going to get into some of the details of this, but let's get back to the subject of this video, which is creating meaningful music and meaningful melodies. And there may be some guitar players that will come to mind, like David Gilmour or John Frusciante, to name a couple, but I think beyond trying to emulate your favorite guitar players, there are certain things that you can do to get yourself in the right mindset and also put yourself in a good position to convey this sort of emotion. And the first thing I would recommend is starting simple. As far as your guitar tone, we're kind of taking this from a guitar approach. You can use any instrument, but I think you guys are guitar players, right? Starting with a simple sound and a simple guitar tone takes away some of the effects maybe that you hide behind and use for inspiration. I'm all for distortion and delay and reverb and all that good stuff, but I think to really get to the authentic heart of a meaningful note or melody or rhythm guitar part or whatever, if you have a simple sound to start with, when you do go on to add some of that other stuff in, like guitar effects, it just enhances that part instead of using those effects as a crutch maybe. So with that in mind, I'm going to dial in a sound now. So Audient is actually working in conjunction with two notes on the Sono interface, and this is called Torpedo Remote. This is the computer application that you can use to dial in various different sounds. And as you can see here, you can dial in different sorts of cabs, and you can change the room that you're in, from a studio to a cathedral to a crypt. Let's see what this sounds like. Move the mic placement to get more of that crypt sound. As you can see here, you can dial in the power amp to get a little bit more natural distortion. And you can dial in the tone. Make it a little bit more modern sounding. This is really what appeals to me about the Sono, is it really takes away a lot of the guesswork. So as you can see, the contour here, vintage to modern, there's a lot of different things happening here in order to achieve this, but look at that graphic actually change. It's pretty straightforward and it tells you exactly what's going on without getting too complicated. And same thing with the distance. You can see exactly where that mic placement is, close to the cab or further away. And even the tone, it's getting dark for nighttime, and as it brightens up, we get the sunlight, the power amp. Obviously, you can turn it off or dial it all the way on. It's just really, really simple and straightforward to use. And the same thing's true for the actual layout of the interface. This is really funny to me and really appeals to my sensibilities. We have some signal, we have a good signal, we can get hot. Let's see what happens if we crank up the input. It'll let you know that that's bad, that's clipping. So that's sort of the appeal of this device, is it's very simple to use. It can get really complicated, complex, and powerful if you want to go down that route. Again, I'm sort of a let's hear what it sounds like kind of guy, as opposed to let's see about all the specs. You can learn more about the intricacies from the website, but I'm going to show you how I like to use this thing. So let's start with a chord progression. The best way to write meaningful, moving music is to have some emotive harmony. And when I think of emotive harmony, I think minor key. So as we know, if we wanted to take the key of G major, E minor would be an option, or A minor. Do like a Dorian thing. But I want to get even further into the sort of tear-jerking mode, and that'll involve having more than just a vamp. I think that's the first place people start, is just like a 2-chord or maybe 3-chord vamp. I'm going to go with something a little bit more detailed as far as the harmony goes, just to sort of convey the key and the tonality of the song, and also give myself some options. So if you're writing meaningful guitar solos, I recommend having more than just one chord change, because it'll give the potential story that you want to tell a longer runway to be told, and have more twists and turns. And then when it finally does resolve back to whatever your home base is, it'll be a lot more impactful that way. So with that in mind, let's take an open string key, and that will give us just the most washiness and allow us to take this simple sounding guitar tone and really get the most out of it. So like I said, when we go back and add the fancy effects and EQ and stuff after the fact, it will just sound that much cooler. So an open string key is obviously a key that takes advantage of the open strings, and I would go with E major for that. And what is the relative minor key of E major? We can find that out by going right up the major scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. C sharp minor. And you may be like, oh no, a sharp key? What does that mean? Isn't that gonna be difficult to play in? Why can't we play in something easy like A or G? Well, this is actually an awesome minor key. C sharp minor is great because it takes advantage of the minor third, which is E, as well as the flat 7, B, and as you know, those are both open strings, so we have a minor third and a flat 7 available to us with those open strings. So if we wanted to just play a basic shape, there are many different options available to us, and we can basically just strum all through those chords, and that really applies for any diatonic chord in this C sharp minor tonality. So for example, an A major, B major, F sharp minor, so all these chords are available to us. Now that we have that palette, let's come up with a chord progression. You can use the Sono with any DAW that you want to. I'm using Logic Pro, and this is where we are going to construct our song. And I like starting chord progressions maybe not on the root chord. So let's take a look at some of our chords. Kind of like that chord. Again, we're keeping everything really simple. We're going to keep the chord shape simple, we're going to keep the guitar tone simple, and just nice and easy. That's pretty nice. However, maybe we'll put this up here to keep using those open strings. Because if you notice, you can't really get those open strings when you're having to bar here. So here's the F sharp minor chord. So listen to all these open strings. so now that we have our nice little panned harmony happening here, we're going to add a little bit more color to it, but I'm gonna make sure I save this preset so I can come back to it. I'll call it Crypt Rhythm. So I am going to change cabs as well as change the room. I'm actually gonna get a nice loft. There we go. And let's see, what amp sound do I want? I'm gonna go with something a little bit offset. So let's go with a vintage sound, and we will push the power amp to get a little bit different saturation here. Let's see what this sounds like. Let's see what this is like. All right, we're actually gonna bring the mic a little closer, get less room. So that feels pretty good right there. It's a nice contrast. It's real warm, and that is sort of what I'm going for to give a bit of contrast to this part here and just a little accent. So here is what I'm thinking. Something like that, real simple. All right, we got a good foundation. Let's add some bass, and this thing doesn't just do guitar, it also has some bass options for us. Heaven Top, that sounds good. And we'll bring it pretty close. We don't need much ambience for the bass. Go with a vintage sound for a vintage style guitar, vintage style bass. Playing big washy chords like this, you gotta have an acoustic guitar. And of course, the Sono has the capability for you to mic up an acoustic guitar or vocals or drums or anything you want. Go ahead and plug that in here. And if you're using a mic that requires phantom power, no problem, got you covered. And since we're recording with a mic, we don't want any sound from the song, so we're gonna wanna use our headphones. Now everything's nice and beautiful. Let's add some EQ, a little bit of compression, a bit of mixing. We're essentially making our canvas big and broad because we want the nicest canvas to paint upon. I think we're ready to find our lead guitar tone and get to the meat of this lesson. So as you guys know, I am a pedal fanatic, and luckily the Sono will allow for my indulgence. I find that the tones available sort of geared towards clean and crunch. As a result, I think it's the perfect platform to add a bit of boost in the front end. Let's see what that valve is capable of. Decisions. I know. All right, so we got the Vibro V30. I think I know what that might be emulating. Let's go to the basement. Seems like some vibes down here. So this is the sound that we have. That's actually pretty good. Get a little bit of the ambience of the basement. And with the Nobles. We got a sick tone. Now, here are my thoughts on playing melodies that are memorable. It's basically to repeat yourself a lot and sort of go through a couple ideas and phrases, and don't try to get too far away from those phrases, even if you don't really think they're it right away. So I'm going to put on the backing track that I've created here and essentially try and find one or two phrases that are singable. Whether or not they're that good isn't really my concern yet. It's more about getting into that mentality of playing something repetitively to make it as memorable as you can, because you can sort of tell when something is pretty good or whether something feels like just playing a scale or whether something's a little too out there and not that memorable. So I think there's a happy balance, and there's a few different characteristics that you can try to develop in yourself to make yourself play like this more often. I think a couple of them would be like breathing, and that will help you play a little bit slower, and really not diving too far out of one octave range. That can be something that guitar players in particular will do, because we have access to 3 octaves within, this 2 or 3 fret radius. So having the ability to sort of restrict yourself and be a little bit more musical with what you're playing is important. And the way to do that is, like I said, try and breathe, try and sing what you're playing, and that will usually lead you down the right path. So I'm going to try and do that now and see what we find. We'll put this on a loop. And we're off. Okay, right off the bat, something to keep in mind, target notes. So you could hear some of those notes, although technically correct and in the same scale or chord scale, harmony, whatever you want to say, that didn't sound great. So what I'm going to be focusing on are not only notes that are singable and in a pattern that is singable, but also notes that sound good over certain chords, and maybe targeting those notes and trying to develop phrases around that method of thinking. Back to it. So, notes to avoid. I would say root notes. So, as you can hear, the harmony starts with this A. So I'm going to try and avoid A over that. And then it goes to C sharp. So I'm going to try and avoid these C sharp notes, so on and so forth. So avoiding the root is a really effective way to be expressive in your guitar solos. Usually some good notes to hit are like the 9th or the 3rd. But we'll go from there and see how that helps us develop. Okay, so another thing that is important to try is, while you are trying to be repetitive to a certain extent to sort of hammer home the fact that, hey, I'm playing a melody that I want you to listen to, usually 3 times, unless it's a really emphatic point or you haven't been repeating yourself already, 3 times might be too much, but twice it seems to be the sweet spot, at least in this particular circumstance. So I was kind of coming up with that kind of thing, and then I started to have that same rhythm, but again target different notes, and then the 3rd time I did it, that didn't really feel as good as the first 2 times. So I'm going to try and break out there. As you'll notice, I'm kind of sticking to one part of the neck, and I think that is kind of important for memorable melodies, like I mentioned, to kind of stick in the same octave. But also what comes with that territory is the danger of sort of sounding kind of basic, which I think I'm starting to do. So I'm going to lay down the couple of phrases here that I think I really like. I'm going to sort of mess around with a couple different licks that I can fit in the spots that I don't quite have something for yet, And that is how you compose music. And after that, you learn back, at least this is my process, you can learn back what it is you played and play it in one go, and it becomes very natural as opposed to like cut and paste and stuff like that. So this is the way that I find to really get the most out of your guitar playing with the least amount of actual notes happening, and I hope this has been helpful for you, and I hope this inspires you to create something of your own that is memorable, because we all look up to our favorite guitar heroes, but hey, maybe there's a guitar hero to be watching this right now. In fact, I'm sure that there is. So you get to work, because I want to listen to what you have to play. Thanks a lot to Audient for sponsoring this video and hooking me up with the Sono. Remember, you can win one of these things if you just check out the link down below. There's a giveaway, all the details are there. And I'm going to go ahead and complete this little song. I'll actually let this backing track play for a minute at the end of this video in case you want to jam over it. Enjoy. And until next time, keep shredding.